see a brand ambassador is, I know some brand ambassadors are paid, some are not, but I feel like it's your most loyal, engaged customer. The person who is almost like an evangelist for your brand, who is going to talk about you on social media, tell all their friends about you, is not even going to think about going someplace else. They are the most, absolutely most engaged customer that you can have.
You're listening to episode 145 of the Fitness Business Podcast. We'd like to thank this month's premier podcast partner, One Fit Stop, the complete fitness business software that's perfect for studios, gyms, and clubs. To find out more, go to onefitstop.com. Welcome along to our very first show for 2018. I hope that you have had a wonderful break over the last couple of weeks. I had a beautiful, relaxing couple of weeks here in Sydney. We are actually in the middle of an incredibly hot summer, so it's been a pretty good excuse for me to go swimming each day and to catch up on some much needed time with my family. Now, I think that most of you know that 2017 was actually a massive year for the Fitness Business Podcast. In fact, this morning I jumped online and I checked out our figures, and thanks to all of you out there that are listening, we more than doubled our downloads year on year, which is incredibly exciting because to me that means that we're reaching and hopefully helping more and more fitness professionals every single year. It's funny because looking back, I think that 2017 was just such a busy 12 months that I really didn't take the time to not only take a breath, but actually look at all of the incredible things that happened throughout the year. So the last couple of weeks that I've had has given me that time and the headspace to actually re-listen to some of the shows. And it was a really good reminder of just how lucky we are to have so many amazing guests join us on the show. We have download numbers, which tell us who the most popular shows are, which shows have been downloaded the most. But then there's also shows that I feel really sneak under the radar a little bit, but they're actually some of the most impactful and the most meaningful conversations that I have. So I thought before we get into this week's interview that I'd share with you my top 5 shows that I recommend listening to, if you haven't already, that will really make an impact on your 2018. So here they are. The first one is show 105, Sales EQ Jeb Blount, which was how to become an ultra high performer in your fitness business. The second one is show 90, Monique Valcour, the symptoms of burnout and how to beat it. Then the third is show 91, Luke Carlson, on identifying your core purpose makes your fitness business unique. The fourth is John Bellamy, and that's why every fitness professional should be using LinkedIn. And the fifth show is 142, a fairly recent one with Daniel Priestley on how to become a key person of influence in the fitness industry. So that was 2017. Now let's talk about 2018. And I hate to be a name dropper, but I'm going to anyway. I cannot keep these a secret because they are too good for me not to share. Now, starting off with the 2018 URSA keynote speaker, we have Lisa Bodell coming on the show, which is unbelievable. I'm so excited. So that's happening really soon. We've got the 2018 Filex Business Summit speakers, Thomas Plummer and Emma Barry. We've got ad strategist Amanda Bond coming on to talk about Facebook remarketing. And we've got the amazing Greg Seller, who is joining us to share some tips on getting yourself and getting your business organized for a successful 2018. Now, that is just the first 8 weeks. You will not believe the guests and the topics that we have planned this year. So I'm so excited to get cracking into the year. First and foremost, we better get on to today's show. Our special guest for today is Deb Heisler, the Director of Operations at Active Wellness. Now, with over 20 years' experience, Deb has held a multitude of management positions and worked in various channels from commercial through to corporate. I caught up with Deb during the 2017 Club Industry Show, where she was presenting a session called Member Experience, Making Our Staff and Members Our Brand Ambassadors. So I thought this was a really great topic for us to discuss on the show. show. And specifically, we talk about how we can use brand ambassadors to represent our business and what to consider when pointing at someone with that responsibility. During the interview, Deb shares some really good practical tips, and I know that chances are that many of you will want to actually look at using an ambassador in your business in 2018 at some point. So to help with that process, Active Management have organised this fantastic template, which is an ambassador sample agreement for fitness clubs and studios. It's just a one-page document, and you can customize it and you can use it as an agreement with an ambassador for your own business. So once you've had a listen to Deb's advice in the interview, then jump over to the website at fitnessbusinesspodcast.com and download that sample agreement from Active Management and customize it with your logo and your information, etc., etc. So I reckon that's pretty amazing. So a big thank you to JT and the team from Active Management for supplying that template to go along with today's show. Okay, we're nearly there, guys. So before we transition into the interview with Deb, I first want to do a big shout out to this month's premier podcast partner. One Fit Stop's scheduling, client management, programming, and payment collection tools will set your business up for success. To find out more, head over to onefitstop.com. Deb, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Chantel.
Do you want to start off by giving us your definition of a brand ambassador?
So the way I see a brand ambassador is, I know some brand ambassadors are paid, some are not, but I feel like it's your most loyal, engaged customer, the person who is almost like an evangelist for your brand, who is going to talk about you on social media, tell all their friends about you, is not even going to think about going someplace else. They are the most, absolutely most engaged customer that you can have.
We hear the word influencer a lot at the moment. Is there a difference between a brand ambassador and an influencer?
Well, I do think a brand ambassador obviously is a strong influencer, but I think that a brand ambassador is a little bit different than an influencer because they often have leadership qualities, and they have this amazing ability to motivate people and have some type of resilience that they've, hardworking resilience.
Okay. So if we are thinking about our own facilities, what qualities, if we wanted to identify or find a brand ambassador or work with someone, what qualities should we look for in that person?
Well, I think that we need to have somebody who is our biggest fan. So they are going to be out there on social media already talking about our brand, already talking about our facility. They may have some local presence in the community, some local celebrity or some type of person who is already well known. And at that point, you want to, recognize them for, maybe you do some sort of trade for membership or what have you, but it's a great opportunity for them to continue to talk about what they love and for you to emphasize your brand.
And engage them.
Yeah.
And so in your experience, Deb, do you think it's necessary to put some sort of a formal arrangement in place for those? So you just mentioned maybe you do an exchange for a membership or something like that. How important is that, on a club level, that you have a formal agreement in place with your brand ambassador?
I think you need to have some sort of protection, some liability protection. So it's important to put something in place in writing to a degree.
Have you got any examples that you can share with us of clubs that have used a brand ambassador and how they might have utilised that person?
So Active Wellness uses a brand ambassador in California, and her name is Amy Gutierrez, Amy G. She's a local newscaster, and she is great. She does a lot of social media events for us and has taken over. She works out at our Petaluma facility primarily, and she often puts herself out in the zone pictures, and she's involved in a lot of our photo events and things like that.
So that works out well.
It's been awesome, yeah.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And that's probably a good example. You just said she's like a local news reader.
Exactly.
And that's probably, I would imagine, for many of our facilities, a good example of the level of person or the type of person that we could approach.
Exactly.
To be a brand ambassador. So Deb, up until now, we've been talking about external brand ambassadors, but can we also look internally for our brand ambassadors?
Absolutely. I think one of our biggest assets and one of the biggest places that we want to look and drive that brand ambassador relationship is with our own team members and our own staff. I think it's important that we are hiring for the core values from the immediacy. From the first step in the interview process, we want to make sure that we're talking about what kind of person they are. And then as they come through and they start to work for us for any length of time, you're going to find out who are your cultural leaders in the company. And I think that as you find those people, you want to enhance that. You want to give them more opportunities to embrace that opportunity to kind of bring on, I would say, more leadership abilities to their plate.
And would you put that as part of if you identified that person within the business that had the right cultural fit and had those leadership capabilities that you're talking about, would you make that part of their KPIs or part of their job description, or is this something that is treated separately to that?
I think I think it depends on what role that they play. Mm-hmm. But yes, you want to define role responsibilities pretty clearly. So let's use the customer service response. If you are looking at a medallia response, we want to make sure that that's part of their role responsibility and that it's clearly defined and it's clearly explained and taught how we want that response to be given.
Okay, so thinking about then in our own businesses, do you have any examples that you can share with us of a brand ambassador within businesses that you're in now or have been working in?
Sure. I think that our own CEO of Active Wellness, Bill McBride, is a great example of a brand ambassador for our industry and for our company. He goes out of his way to lead in the industry by speaking at conferences and doing these podcasts and travels all over the country and the world, honestly, to meet with people and talk at different industry events so that he can not only get our name out there as Active Wellness, but also just as a leader in the industry and a motivator and a role responsibility.
That's actually a really good example, because when we've had the pleasure of having Bill on the show a couple of times, and when I think about him, I think about someone who represents great leadership, who is amazing at talking about strategy and is always up to date with what's happening as far as industry trends go. And so I can appreciate, you sharing him as an example of a brand ambassador, because I definitely see him in that light as well in my dealings with him. So that's a really good example. Well, Deb, thank you so much for joining us today. Now, if anyone wants to contact you, if they want to talk further or find out more about the topic of brand ambassadors, where's the best place for them to contact you?
They can find me on LinkedIn, and I'm on LinkedIn as Deb Heisler, or they can find me on my email too.
Excellent. So we'll grab your email address, pop it in the show notes, and we'll also maybe grab the link for your LinkedIn as well, so everyone gets the spelling of your name correct.
Sounds good.
Deb, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Chantal. I appreciate it.
Tribe, if you haven't explored a functional training space for your gym, then now is the time. With Queenex Functional Training by PRECOR, there is a unit to fit every space. Plus, education is included to ensure that training is delivered with confidence. You need to jump online and check this out right now. Go to precor.com/fitness business podcast.
PRECOR Quickfire 5.
This week's PRECOR Quickfire 5 guest is Brent Darden. I caught up with Brent at Club Industry and we recorded this interview live. So if you want to check out the video version, then jump over to Facebook and take a look over there. For now, here is the PRECOR Quickfire 5 with Brent Darden. Tell everyone, why do you do what you do?
I do what I do so hopefully I can be a positive influence for people that I come in contact with around the world, and then, of course, locally as well, particularly related to health and movement and fitness and being active.
And there's a little clue as to what we're going to be speaking about as well. And what's the best piece of advice that you've ever received?
I'd have to say that probably interesting is from my father when I was younger and having a little bit of sporting success. I was a little too proud of myself, and he said, son, if you're really good at what you do, you don't have to talk. Other people will do the talking for you.
That's good advice. That's good advice. And what's one personal habit that helps you become better at what you do?
personal habit probably that helps me just stay on track the most is just staying true to sort of who I am, being myself, not trying to be what other people think you should be. Yeah. So I think I do a pretty good job of having this compass about what my values are and trying to make sure I'm in alignment with those. Yeah, that's it.
Beautiful. And what's one book that you would recommend and why?
You don't have to give you two.
You can definitely give me two. You're allowed.
One would be No Sweat by Michelle Seeger.
Ah, perfect.
I think she has fabulous advice and insights there. And then another one is more recent. It's called Grit by Angela Duckworth. And it's, as the title suggests, it's about some people have grit and sort of a stick-to-itiveness that helps them be successful.
So we were talking earlier, and of course, Michelle was a guest on the show, No Sweat. And if anyone hasn't actually read that book, I definitely recommend that you do check out Michelle Seeger's No Sweat. And of course, I can put the link to the show that she was on in the notes below, guys. So if you haven't had a listen to that, then just put Michelle Seeger or Michelle in the comments below, and I'll put the link for her show there. So, and Grit is a book that a few people have actually recommended to me. So I'm going to have to read that one. I haven't done that yet. Okay, now you're coming back for our main interview shortly. So what are we going to be talking about?
We're going to be talking about the power of influence, which is exponential. Constantly we're being influenced by our surroundings, by the people we interact with, and then conversely we're influencing those around us as well.
Well, I'm really excited to have you back on the show, Brent. So thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure.
Before we finish off today's show, a reminder that all the resources, links, and the transcript for today's show can be found at fitnessbusinesspodcast.com. Thank you so much to all of our partners for their support and to our foundation partner, Active Management. Go to fitnessbusinesspodcast.com/active for a free business development ebook. Thank you so much for joining me for our very first episode of 2018. I'll see you next week, and remember, what you leave behind is not what's engraved in stone monuments, but what is woven into the lives of others.